Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 21 Hats podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Feldman. This week, Jay Goltz, Liz Picarazzi, and Sarah Segal talk about the inherent conflicts between being an entrepreneur and being a CEO, and the different skill sets each role requires. Does it make sense for the same person to do both jobs? Is being CEO even a full-time job? And when does it make sense to replace yourself as CEO? Liz says she's thought about it. Jay, not so much. Could I have found somebody 10, 15, 20 years ago that was a better manager, Jay asks? Sure, but it just wasn't worth it. Why not? It's going to cost you $250,000 a year, Jay says. Is it worth paying that? Plus, Liz and Sarah talk about positioning a company to be acquired. And Sarah proposes a PR campaign for Liz's package bins right on the spot. Even in good times, owning and running a business can be a lonely pursuit. Our hope is that these weekly conversations, brought to you by our principal sponsor, The Great Game of Business, will let owners know they are not alone in facing challenges. Same thing with our daily newsletter, the 21 Hats Morning Report, which Inc. magazine named the best newsletter for business owners and which you can subscribe to for free at 21hats.com, where you can also find transcripts of our podcast episodes and lots of other articles and interviews. Joining me this week on the podcast are regulars Liz Picarazzi, who is CEO of CityBin, which is based in Brooklyn, New York, and makes trash enclosures and package bins. Sarah Segal, who's founder and CEO of Segal Communications, a public relations firm based in San Francisco. And Jay Goltz, CEO of the Goltz Group, whose companies in Chicago include a picture frame business, artist frame service, and a home furnishing store, Jason Home. The episode is titled, I'm Not a Real CEO. Welcome, Jay, Liz, and Sarah. I appreciate your taking the time to be here. I want to start today with a blog post that Jason Fried, the founder and CEO of 37 Signals, also known as Basecamp, recently published. In it, Jason, who's been a guest on this podcast, made some interesting assertions. One is that you really can't be both a CEO and a founder. Why not, he asked. These are his words. Because a founder's job is injecting risk into the business. It's flooding it with new ideas, stuff that seems hard to do, ideas that no one else would dare try, placing the kinds of bets that only someone who started the damn thing would be willing to wager. A CEO's job? Just the opposite. It's reducing risk, executing diligently to achieve obvious goals, staying in business at all costs. You guys are all CEOs and founders, so I'm kind of wondering what you think about this. How about you, Liz?
So I found this article incredibly relatable. I definitely am more of a founder, even though I'm also the CEO. For me, the distinction between founder and CEO has only become really apparent in the last couple of years as we've grown, because I really like being the founder. I like to be the innovator, the creator, the one that's injecting risk, the one that's making bets, the one that's cycling ideas. That's my sweet spot. That's what I enjoy. That's why I am an entrepreneur. So the more I'm called upon to be a CEO, and I'll admit, like Jason, it's not a full-time job for me to be the CEO. I already know that I prefer the former. And reading articles like this are actually very helpful because I sometimes feel bad that I'm not a better CEO. And it makes me understand why, the skills and what you bring to it are very different. The roles are very different. Having a real CEO, because I'll call myself not a real CEO, is probably in our near future. But I understand myself better by reading that article. I guess I'll just put it that way.
Sarah, how about you? How did you react?
Well, first of all, if you're a big enough company to have the luxury of having a founder and a CEO, have at it. Do a division of labor. But most small companies, you are, as the name of your podcast, you're wearing 21 hats. You're CEO, you're CFO, you're founder, you're the person that takes the garbage out at the end of the week. You do it all. So I also think of it as saying that somebody is only left brain or right brain, I ask that question a lot when I interview people for jobs. I'm like, well, do you consider yourself a creative or somebody who's more like an analytical thinker, more scientific, et cetera? And most everybody sees themselves as kind of a mesh between the two. But I think you can be founder and CEO. I think that if you're a founder and you don't have some CEO abilities, you're going to fail before you start, because you can't just always throw caution to the wind. You have to, like, if you have staff, you have to make payroll. You can't, buy that fancy new office that you want to buy just because you think it will be better optics for your clients. Like, you have to have some of those qualities, even if you are a reckless enthusiast founder. Like, you still have to have that. But as a CEO, you also have to take a amount of risk. Like, do I want to get a small business loan so I can invest in my company? Where am I going to spend that money? There's a risk of taking out a loan, especially as a small business owner, because usually it's not just based on your business, it's based on your personal credit.
And the collateral that you put up.
Exactly. So it's like, I agree in the statement, but I don't think it's applicable to every business because of their size, essentially.
Jay, I just sense that you got something to say about this.
I would say this. Jason Fried's a very smart guy, and he's been very successful. And that's his opinion, but I think it's a false choice. I understand. I fully agree with both Liz and Sarah. It can be a struggle, and I really would replace the word founder with entrepreneur. I think that's more accurate.
I think you both mean very much the same thing.
Yes. I'm just saying, I've said many times, I'm 80% entrepreneur and 20% manager. And can it be a struggle? Yes. But to suggest that the two of them are complete polar opposites, I'll just say from my perspective, it's just ridiculous to suggest that, oh, you've got to be conservative and your number one thing should be not going on. Yeah, I do think that should be your number one thing. So that means that entrepreneurs shouldn't worry about putting themselves out of business. There's somewhere between just being that reckless, do whatever you want and bet the farm thing and not taking any chances. That's a false choice. You can be a CEO and still take chances. Do I not take chances that could put me out of business? Yeah, I'm crazy like that. I don't really want to put myself out of business. I opened up the store in New York. I did a pop-up. I did it for 7 months, knowing if it didn't work out, I wasn't going to be stuck with a, $500,000 a year lease or something. So I believe it's a false choice. I believe you can do both. The tone of that, his comments are like, the founder entrepreneurs just go and do crazy stuff and it might put them out of business. And then the CEO can't do anything that's not conservative is just a ridiculous summary of it. I live in that world. I take chances all the time. But yes, I am cognizant that I shouldn't go bet the ranch, because why would I do that at this point? I got 130 people that make their living here. Why in the world would I want to bet the ranch to go ahead and grow it anymore? So I don't even know if struggle is the right word. Is it something you have to get a handle on? Is it something that maybe somebody would be better off being the CEO? Sure. So I fully agree with everything both Sarah and Liz said, but I don't think it's one or the other. And I absolutely do not agree that, you can't both be the founder entrepreneur and the CEO at the same time. That's just...
It's about taking calculated risk.
Right.
That's the mesh of the two.
Yes.
You can take risk, but it has to be thoughtful and you have to know what the consequence is and you have to have an out. Doing a pop-up is a great example for a retail company. You test the market before you dive in head first. I think even a founder or an entrepreneur would do that.
I mean, he's suggesting that if you don't stay wild and crazy and take wild risks, that you're not going to be successful. That's just ridiculous. I mean, maybe in his world it is. Maybe in his world what he said is accurate, but there's millions of companies out there that have managed to transition from being a startup entrepreneur to running the company. And is it maybe hard for some people? Sure, I get it. It's a different skill set. But I absolutely don't think that, it's one or the other. And I'm living proof of I'm still very entrepreneurial. Have I toned it down over the years? Yeah, because I got the business big enough now. I need more money less than I need more risk. So have I gotten more conservative? Yeah, absolutely. But I certainly haven't become conservative to where I just don't take any risks. Me and everyone else out there, not just me, every other business that's out there is in a similar situation.
What are you thinking of when you say that you still take risks?
Well, at this point, here's my new word. It's not about balance. It's about alignment. I don't need to grow the business a lot more. I want to grow organically. I'm not opening more stores. Why would I open another store? It's more people, more exposure. I don't need to.
Right, but you said you are still taking risk.
I take risks with advertising. I certainly still borrow money. I take risks with trying new product lines and doing stuff. So it's not like I'm petrified of taking any risk. I just don't need to take the risks anymore because I got the business big enough that I'm making a really good living and everybody's happy. And this is where I say it's not the income, it's the outcome. I don't just need, I got out of the fast lane. Now I'm in the medium lane. I don't need to do it anymore. I got it big enough. My company, and I'm not exaggerating, my company is 50 times bigger than I ever thought it would be. I never had any grand plan for what it turned into. I'm surprised myself as to how big it got. It's big enough. There is such a thing. It's big enough. I'm happy.
That's really interesting. Because I went to an event with a staffer that we had, and she looked at me afterwards. We were having drinks, and she was like, "What is your grand plan for your business? What do you like? Where do you see the company in 5-10 years or whatever?" And I'm curious, Jay, it sounds like you never had that grand plan.
No.
Liz, do you have that grand plan?
No.
So I don't either.
So I'm saying to you, Sarah, let's say you get the business up to, and I assume in PR world, a $6 million business would be a nice size PR firm, I assume?
Yeah, that'd be a nice size.
Okay, so you wake up one day and you got a $6 million PR firm. You got happy people, you got happy customers, you got happy employees. You're making a lot of money. There's nothing you can't buy within reason. You might say, yeah, I don't think I need to push it like I used to, because what's the point?
Well, I do live in San Francisco.
Okay, then 10 million then. So then say 10 million. But at some point, you have to wake up one day and go, why am I doing this? And why would I want more exposure? It's all fine. What I just said to you, I wouldn't have said 10 years ago. No way.
Yeah, it's not about the money. It's more about the legacy. Like, I would like the company to live on beyond me. That's kind of my goal, is that I feel like I've created a company with a good vibe, a good purpose, a place people like to work, people stay, that like promotes education and does great work for its clients. And I would like someone to want to continue that purpose. It's not about, another paycheck. So I'd rather reinvest that money into building something that can live on in perpetuity.
Which I think is great, and I certainly want to do that. The only line I would draw is, in my case, I'm going to try to do that, but I am not going to hook my happiness wagon to that, because if I can't pull it off for whatever reason, gave it a shot, I am not going to make myself crazy trying to figure out. I'm doing everything I can to do that, but I think we have enough responsibility when we're alive to do it than worrying about when we're dead what's going to happen. I just don't want to hang that on anybody. And I know companies do, and I'm not buying into that.
I'd like to go back to something Liz said before. Liz, I'm curious, having heard what Jay just said about how one person can embody both roles, does that affect your thinking at all in terms of what you said about not being a real CEO and thinking that your business might need one?
Well, I would say that because I am still a good CEO, maybe not a great one, it does temper my more impulsive tendencies as a founder.
Why do you say you're a good one, not a great one? Just to clarify that.
I think that the structure of being a CEO and the focus more on execution is just it's not my strength. I'm much more creative. I like working in the area of new ideas. I'll implement them for a while, but then I'll be really eager to pass it off and move on to the next.
Do you think somebody else could do a better job than you? For real?
I have to say, that thought crosses my mind quite a bit.
I have an answer to that. How about this? Because this is what I've lived in. Yes, you could absolutely find someone better. It wouldn't be worth the money. It would suck the profit out of the company. So could you go hire someone who's super smart to be a great? Yeah, sure. It's going to cost you $250,000 a year. Is it worth paying that? No, because you're doing it good enough. I mean, that's the world. Could I have found somebody 10, 15, 20 years ago that was a better manager and more? Sure, but it just wasn't worth it. So, and I would say in your case, you're still very young. You haven't been doing it that long. The reason you're not a quote unquote great CEO is you're still in training. I mean, it takes years to figure it out. Most CEOs are, if they're not in the computer industry, most CEOs are, 50, 60 years old, because it takes 20, 30 years to get all the skill sets you need to do it properly.
And there's one other factor, which is you did bring in someone who kind of complements your skills. If that someone happens to be your husband.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have been able to spend more time as founder since he came in as COO. And I mean, that has been helpful in not only like filling gaps, but in just strategically being able to talk to him about literally everything in the business and being able to get input that is based on like his knowledge and what he's doing hands-on, but also that he's going to have the right motivation on decisions because we own the company together. So, that really was a big relief. I do sometimes worry about what would have happened had he not come in and we grew as we did, because just everything with operations before he came in were not very good.
I can tell you would have found somebody who would have worked out fine. And just because they're not your husband doesn't mean I've got 20 people that care about what we do every day. They don't need to be my relative to care a lot. So you would have found somebody, maybe not as good, but you would have found somebody. That's the answer. I mean, you didn't need to because he was there. And that's good.
Yeah.
Jay, I want to go back to you on one point. You have made that point here before about being 80% entrepreneur and 20% manager. I've never really bought that. I think anybody who listens to this podcast has heard that you're very thoughtful about management issues,
Okay, I can clarify that. No, I'll tell you what it is, because there is something there. You're right. I think I have good management skills. I think my weak spot that I have to continually work on is paying attention to looking at reports. And I have to discipline myself to sit down and play manager and look at the reports and follow up and have meetings. That's not my skill set. So yes, you're right. I've got some good skills in it, but my head is usually thinking about, look, I'm doing the podcast today. Should I be doing the podcast today, or should I be going through my inventory and figuring out what we need to get rid of? I mean, I get distracted easily, and this is really the issue. I like the entrepreneurship side. I like figuring stuff out. I like building new things. And I have to discipline myself to go, okay, you built enough new stuff. Pay attention to your inventory problem. It's a constant struggle. It is. That's where the 80-20 comes in. So maybe it's 50-50. You're right. It's not 80-20. It's probably 50-50.
So do you worry about finding your job less rewarding as you go on, and the need for you to focus more on management and less on entrepreneurship continues?
No, I got to tell you what's interesting lately. I just turned 67. My friends are between 65 and 72. And the ones that are quote unquote professionals, doctors, lawyers, stockbrokers, they got some real dentists. Pretty hard. Dentists is physically demanding. I am thrilled that I own a business because there's nothing about my job that quote unquote, that's like a problem. Like those guys are retiring because they don't want to deal with it anymore. And I respect and understand that. The pressure of having the client calling you, the pressure of being a dentist, the pressure of being a doctor, dealing with hospitals, they at some point go, yeah, I don't want to deal with this anymore. I don't have anything in my life going to work that I think, oh my God, I've had enough of that. I come to work, no one's looking for me. My life is 180 degrees from where it was 30 years ago. There's no post-it notes. There's no phone messages. There's no, oh, Jay, I got to talk to you. If I didn't show up for 2 days, most people wouldn't even notice it. So I managed to pull that off.
Without getting bored?
Yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, I find, I'm doing the podcast. Why do you think I do the podcast? I like doing the podcast. I'm doing what I want to do.
I appreciate that.
No, I do. I like talking business. That's my hobby. Yeah, I've got nothing that's going to make me think, oh no, you can't do this much longer.
The last thing on this blog post that I want to mention is Jason Fried also says that being a CEO really is a part-time job. Let me quote him. There simply aren't that many big picture things or decisions to execute day in and day out, or even week in and week out, to make it a true full-time job. A role? Yes. A hat to wear? Yes. A full-time job at a smallish company? No. It's part-time at best. Quarter time, even better. Any thoughts on that, anybody?
Okay, maybe. You know what? If you said, Jay, you can only work 20 hours a week. Yeah, sure. I might agree with him on that part. If you've got the right people in place, you're overseeing, you're not managing. I could go with that part. Maybe it isn't a full-time job.
Sarah?
Yeah, no, I can agree. Like if you're already set up, if you're set up and you have the wheels turning and the gears are clicking into place in the right place, yeah, it should just be on autopilot, and your decision making should be, relatively minimal, and you should be spending your time in selling and being a representative of the company for sure.
Or doing a podcast.
Yeah. Liz, how about you? Does that part-time job thing make sense to you?
It does. It does. I sometimes think if we, as I sometimes want to double, triple, quadruple as we grow, that's when I think I'm really not going to be a good CEO, and I probably wouldn't enjoy that job. I'd like to be alongside of it, but growing a fast growing company as that CEO, I don't know. I don't think I would like that.
What I'm telling you is if you have the right key people in place, it's not a problem. I always say they don't take a bullet for me, but they take the bullshit for me. Like they're doing everything. Here's part of the key though. You got to be big enough to pay enough. If your business gets big enough where you can start to pay some six-figure salaries, you're going to get some very responsible, smart people. They can take that off your responsibility. So you're not big enough to be at that point yet. If you had a few others more senior people there, I'm telling you, your life would be much easier, but you're not there yet. You're growing into it.
All right. I wanted to talk about something, Liz, that you've brought up previously on the show, which is your thoughts about developing strategic partnerships with other companies. Have you made any progress with that?
Yeah, there's a couple of areas for the business that are really, interesting and I'm really engaged with, where like talking to a potential vendor starts to sound not like I'm buying, let's say, a piece of hardware from them, but rather there could be some sort of a partnership, which then in my mind goes into potential acquisition like 10 years down the line. And so I'm noticing in various places, one of them is having to do with components for our bins, but another one is we've had a lot of requests to put advertising on the bins. So I'm starting to learn about advertising on public fixtures. So, looking at how bus stops have ads on them or benches or other types of trash receptacles. And so for that too, it's like, okay, I'm talking to a couple of companies on this, and I feel like, is this a sort of a transaction where I'm enabling my customers to purchase their bins via advertising? And is that something where it's kind of transactional or partnership? But the exciting thing is that I do see that some of the companies that I'm talking to could take us into a place that we wouldn't have even thought we were in a couple of years ago. Like I wouldn't have anticipated putting ads on the bins, working suddenly with media companies and with brands, so that sort of partnership I'm really excited about. But it also, I guess I'd say I'm in a place of learning a lot now, and I really like being in that place. But I feel like, how much can I learn and figure this out before I actually make a move? So it's almost like I'm sniffing, and me and these other companies are kind of sniffing each other out. And I do get attached to what could that partnership look like. And I need to remind myself, like it can proceed more organically.
My only comment with that is that all sounds great. Whatever you do, I can't emphasize enough. I'd make sure that there's an out, because you just don't know what's going to happen. And whatever deal you cut, I would make sure there's some honeymoon period that if you wake up and go, yikes, this isn't going like I thought, you can get out of it, because who needs to screw their business up? One of the goals of the CEO should be to never get in a lawsuit. Trust me. I mean, there's no winning in it. And I don't think that should be a problem. I think you should be able to put together some kind of deal that you have an out after 12 months or something, because who needs to get locked into something that's not working?
Yeah.
Sarah, how did you end up being acquired?
Oh, have I not told that story?
I think you have, but I'm curious, did the relationship start the way Liz is describing, with you looking to work together with someone and then it advanced to an actual acquisition? Or was it an acquisition right from the beginning of the discussion?
I'm going to answer that question. I'm just going to tell Liz that I was in New York last week and looking all over the city for her bins. So delighted when I saw one. And then what was interesting to me is when I took the Metro this time, the Metro cards, which used to be bright yellow, now have advertising all over them. And so that was just, made me think of that when you were describing your opportunity.
Absolutely.
It's the old park bench, put an ad on it. I think every relationship starts in a different way. My relationship with the person that coordinated the acquisition was more of a mentor. He and his business partner had started a crisis communications agency 2 years prior to me starting mine. So I went to an event and heard him speak about his experience having worked for a larger company doing crisis. And I literally cornered him and was like, hey, you just started your agency 2 years ago. Can you tell me everything so I don't make the mistakes that you make? And so that's how that relationship started. And, every once in a while I'd ping him for advice and he'd very generously give us advice. And then when my business partner decided to go in-house with a growing company for an awesome opportunity that she's still with and loves, he looked at us and said, okay, well, you're a little less expensive because you only have one member of your leadership. We've always wanted to expand our general PR stuff. Let's start talking. So the relationship was really organic.
To Jay's point, there did come a time when you found an out. Is that something you thought about while you were developing the relationship? Did you discuss at all ways that you could reverse it? Sounds like no.
No. If you're going in with an out, it means that you're not convinced that it's going to work, right? And I was convinced that this was going to work and it was going to be great. And so if I had that, okay, I got to have an out, I probably wouldn't have done it in the first place.
Wait, this is a false choice. I'm not saying you needed an out, but the fact of the matter is you didn't sign a 40-page contract that said they own you for 10 years. And I don't know that you would have signed that. That's my point. It's not that you had to look for an out, but there was no commitment you had to make that made you think, oh, wait a second, what am I getting into? I can never, right? There was no big legal paperwork.
Well, I had to dissolve my LLC.
Right, but that's no big deal. You start a new one. I mean, that's a no-brainer. There was nothing you did that was like that you had to wake up and go, oh, wait a second, I can never get out of this.
You can say it's no big deal, but basically this year, January, when we became unacquired, I literally had to start the whole business from scratch. And that is a big deal.
So you were able to do it, but it wasn't easy.
Yeah. No. But the decision to part ways was amicable and easy and really supportive, to be perfectly honest. It just didn't result in what we wanted it to result in. They even I wasn't able to set up healthcare for my employees in time to start January 1st. So my old acquired company covered insurance for us. I'm paying them back, of course, for us through January until ours kicked into place. They did a lot of stuff. I was super lucky on our departure because it was let's call it a day. It didn't work out how we hoped it had worked out. And I think that was a universal thought across the board.
And I assume looking back, there was no way you could have predicted what happened. You needed to try it out. And right? I mean, in hindsight, do you feel like, oh, I should have known better?
Yeah, but I coach a sport. I never go into the game going, oh, there's a possibility we can lose. I go into the game saying, we're going to win this. We're going to bring home the trophy. We're going to do awesome. And that's how I need to go in to what I do in business. I go into working with clients of we're going to do really good work. That's just how I am. I see things in a positive way. I have to, otherwise I know in my gut it's not the right fit.
Listen, I think the same way. The difference was when I signed the lease in New York 20 years ago, I might have been dumb enough to go sign a 5-year lease and it could have put me out of business. So I fully agree. I thought it was going to work. I didn't figure, well, if it doesn't work, I plan on it always working. But I'm just suggesting that you might want to make sure whatever you do, that there is no down the road, if anything goes wrong, that you have just basically put a time bomb in your business that blows up. Oh no, you can't leave.
That's what lawyers are for. And which are really expensive. I got our first bill from our contract lawyer for reviewing this lengthy contract and literally almost fell off my chair.
But Jay, is that really what lawyers are for? Do you expect that kind of advice from a lawyer?
No, lawyers make a living going to court. And I'm suggesting counting on lawyers to get you out of trouble is a very dangerous thing, because the whole thing, well, we'll sue them. If you've ever been in any way, shape, or form in a lawsuit, you realize this is not, I was just in one little thing years ago and I was suing them. And when I saw what you can do in a lawsuit with I realized the guy paid me real quick to get out of it. But thinking the legal process is going to solve your problem is extremely naive.
I don't think Sarah's saying that she's planning on going to court over it. She's saying that she expects help from her lawyers in setting up a contract and an arrangement that gives her the protection she needs. Am I right about that, Sarah?
Yeah, I just would like make sure that you have, expectations that are outlined in that. If we go into a relationship, these 10 things are going to be delivered as part of the relationship from the partnership. And if those don't happen, then, we can call it quits.
That's what you want.
I would worry that you're hoping that your lawyers think like business owners and go beyond just looking at the legal language and think about other ways to protect you. And I'm wondering if you can count on that.
I think that it depends on the attorney. I think it depends on your relationship with the attorney and how you as a business owner, and that's on you as a business owner to say, hey, listen, I'm going into this possible deal with this, and I just want protections if it goes awry. Like, whether or not it's an ability to cancel things or get reimbursed for it. Like even our regular client contracts, like they can't just on a Tuesday whim say, we're not going to work with you anymore. They have to give us a certain number of days out. And the reason we do that is because we staff up for clients depending on how sizable their work is. And if they on a Tuesday decide, oh, we don't want to work with you anymore, or my favorite lately is we ran out of money.
Ouch.
Yeah. What am I doing? Because I still have to pay my employees and I don't hire and fire people.
There's a good example of what I'm talking about, though. So they run out of money and they don't pay you. And you say, well, you have to pay me. Well, then you've got to take them to court to get paid. And it's extremely expensive to do that. And if they don't have any money, you're probably not getting any money. So I'm just suggesting just because one has good legal protection, quote unquote, doesn't mean that you're not going to still have a big problem, because going to court is extremely expensive. I just had someone rip off some stuff on my website and I hired the lawyer and he went after him and he took it down. But if I wanted to go and actually fight the couple of pieces left about, oh, you copied it would be tens of thousands of dollars. So it's not worth it.
Well, I got to point out that we started talking about partnerships and we've been now talking about legal and lawyers for about 10 minutes, which is part of the reason why I've always been a little bit hesitant about partnerships. And I've got a few really good conversations going on right now. And through talking with you guys, I want to have some sort of a project with each of these potential partners. So one of them is related to design. One of them is related to advertising. One of them is related to hardware, where there's no big lawyers involved. It just, look, we're going to install these bins in X city and you're going to provide X, Y, Z. Let's see how this works. And if it works well, we can do it in another city. Instead of, if you had asked me a couple days ago, the way I was thinking about this, it really would have been like some sort of huge strategic partnership. And we're going to be working together on all of these big initiatives. And I thought, you know what? You're just getting ahead of yourself. Let's see if we even like working together. Let's see if they want to work with us. Because the reason why I see them as potential partners is that I actually think we would match really well working together on some of these things.
There's clearly synergies out there that they got the car, you got the gas, and it's a beautiful thing and it works. You just want to make sure that you can't always see what's coming down the road, and you make sure you don't wake up one day and go, oh my God, because I'm telling you the answer to, I've got a good contract, I'll sue them. Yeah, that's probably not an easy thing to pull off.
Well, that's the entrepreneur in you. I mean, I assume that if you're doing this test drive with these folks, that your investment is product, right?
Yes.
So how much product are you willing to invest in this?
Well, this is with actual clients. So already paying clients. And this would be augmenting the product with these add-ons. What
do you mean by clients? These are people who are vendors or clients?
No, so let's say I have a particular city that's bought bins and I decide I want to enhance a lot of the hardware on it and I want to put ads on them. I already have the client paying and we're going to be enhancing them with these additional things. So it's not like I'm putting something in and I'm, somehow losing something on it. I'm just enhancing an existing deal by bringing in value added elements at no additional charge to the client.
Okay, can you break this down a little bit? So you have a bin, you have it with the city, You say, "Hey, city, and tell me if I skipped over something. We're going to put ads on the bins." Do you say, "Now, city, you don't have to pay us as much for the bins because we're getting revenue from somebody else"?
So that potentially is what it would be, but it is very much testing because we know that most cities are not going to want this. We know that some will, but we want to make sure that when we lay out city, here's your option for getting city bins. Either you buy them and it's X outright, or you have advertising on it and it will pay for itself over time. This is an option that we can bring in from Y Media Company if you are interested. So it's almost like at the point of sale, we're giving them an option to pay that's different than what they may have thought, which is probably going to be more expensive than they have budget for. So the partner, by adding this ad, is enabling a purchase that might not otherwise happen.
Would you do it up front in the conversation? Or would you say, here's option one, which is where you just get full paid out? Or would you say, if they come back to you and say, "Hey, we only have this much to spend," then you bring in the ad? Or do you put it on the table to begin with?
I like the idea of giving them options.
Okay.
I like calling it a strategic alliance because the second I hear word partner, I cringe. Like, they're not investing in your company. You're not getting, it's a strategic alliance. Like, it works, it doesn't work. Okay.
To start.
Yeah, right. I mean, just the word partner has a lot of tentacles to it. And I would just be, I think it's a strategic alliance. Great. Try it out, see what happens.
So the last thing I want to address today, Liz, I think I might have a customer for you for one of your package lockers. Before I tell you who it is, bring us up to date on that, because you've talked a little bit about how they haven't sold as well, and you've been leaning towards focusing more on the trash enclosures. What's happening with the package lockers?
So I would say the package lockers are, still probably slightly profitable. They have not grown in sales in the last year. And the way that we're primarily selling our package lockers, which is kind of how it's been from the start, is with a trash enclosure. So it's a combo unit where people have their trash, recycling, and package and mail in a modular system. That's been a better way to be able to sell them because people are already making the investment in the trash enclosure and they work really well together. We do sell standalones. We have two different types of package lockers. We have not decommissioned them or discontinued as we had potentially thought of and as Frank has threatened several times. But right now it's like we're not losing any money on it and it works really well. People really like them. We get great reviews, but they're not like in some really great sales channel right now. We're just selling them direct.
So, Jay, I think you've been thinking about
new opportunity. Check this out.
Oh my God, you guys have been conspiring in a
good
good way.
Yes, we've been brainstorming because here's what happened to me last week. I always buy the same soap. I like it, Yardley soap. It's nice. It's lavender. It doesn't get mushy. So
too much information, Jay.
I'm just telling you, it doesn't get mushy. There's a reason for this. So the store I buy it in doesn't carry it anymore. So I figured I'll just buy it online. I order a dozen bars of soap. Amazon drops it on the sidewalk, on a city sidewalk.
Your soap?
In a bag.
You had it sent to your business, not to your home?
Yeah, I always do. It's just, I don't know, I'm here. I guess I could have had it sent to my home, but just go with the story. That's not really relevant. Okay. So come to work, the bag's just sitting on the sidewalk, but someone cut it open with a razor blade.
Oh my God.
Like the thief looked at it and particularly didn't like the soap because we're very discerning in Lincoln Park, and even the thieves are very discerning. So I'm thinking maybe there's an opportunity to come up with boxes with like plexi in there and you can show them what's in there if they want it, if they don't want it, maybe reviews so that the thieves don't have to spend that much time figuring out whether they should take your stuff or not. I just found it fascinating that someone would bother to bend down, cut it open, look at it. Yeah, I don't want this. And I'm a little insulted because it's good soap.
But that means that if it is something really valuable, people will see that. And they're going to target it.
I'm just in the brainstorming stage. I don't know.
Maybe you think that your soap is more valuable than it really is.
Well, perhaps. I'm just surprised that the thief would bend over, open it, and then just not, instead of just walking away with it, that they are. So I'm just thinking there might be a germ of an idea here somewhere. I'm leaving it for you to figure out because it's your space.
We can brainstorm more in Chicago.
My employee had to race out of the office yesterday because I don't think it was Amazon, but some delivery service left her meal, those meal kit packages, like sitting on the sidewalk in front of her building. San Francisco buildings usually have like a gate before you get into your entryway. So like outside the gate, just sitting there.
Yep.
Yeah, that's like they did to me. Like they just drop it on the sidewalk and grow on.
But send her a picture of that. Like thinking, maybe this is not a good idea.
I had the same thing. No, they do. They sent a picture. They hung it on a doorknob, except it's not my doorknob. I had no idea where. It's like becoming a regular thing now. They just like, whatever. It's like, woo, they just throw it out the window and they keep driving. And like, maybe you'll get it, maybe you won't. It's really remarkable.
Gee, Liz, is there anything you can do to help these people?
You know what? You guys just proved why I'm in the package locker business. And that's very validating because people are ordering more and more online. There's a huge amount of theft. I think it's around 70% have had things stolen. And then the inconvenience of having to either race home or, in some cases, you may have to like even go to a gas station or a 7-Eleven to pick up your packages if you don't want them delivered to your house for fear of being stolen. So I think it's a great product. It's a good market. I wish I sold a lot more of them. But now with this idea, maybe I will.
So Liz, this is my PR idea for you. You need to commission a survey. Surveys can cost anywhere between $5,000 and $10,000, depending on the size of your survey. Most media outlets need at least 1,000 people responding to the survey to ensure that it's quantifiable and legitimate data. So you put out a survey to Americans between a certain age range, perhaps a specific region. You just do like the tri-state area, and you say, well, how many times in the last year have you had a package stolen? How many times in the past year have you had a package left in a place that is compromised? It's being delivered to you. In those kind of questions, you do a whole survey about that. You're going to get back meaty, awesome numbers. You put a press release together detailing out all of that data. You push it out to media. You get awesome coverage about your survey. Oh, by the way, yeah, we also provide package lockers, so you don't have to be one of these victims. And then your business grows. So there you go. That's my donation for you today.
I love it. I have a question for you, though. So there are a couple of competitors that have commissioned such studies, and I actually usually reference their stats.
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
I credit them. I credit the study in like a footnote. I wouldn't link to them. But I do think that can be a really good thing to do. I don't know if I would put my money to it, though, since some of the competitors have already done it.
But you would have fun with it, too. Like a lot of people don't have fun with their surveys. This was my old business partner. She was very good at this. Like, would you rather deal with the delivery of a package on time or go to the dentist? And like one of those kind of weird questions where you get these weird answers and people are like, well, apparently people rather go get root canal than deal with having get a package delivered on time, whatever it is. But you can have fun with it.
And there's an insatiable need. Just because it's been done before doesn't mean people won't read the next one.
True.
And if you look at their surveys, you can see if it's a national survey. If it's a national survey and you're really just trying to drive business in the tri-state area right now, you just do the tri-state area. And then you do a thing where you can say, okay, let's do Connecticut, New Jersey, New York, just those 3 states, right? And then you're going to compare them. And you're going to say, people in Connecticut say they are 3 times less likely than a New Yorker to get a package. Media loves that stuff. Or even towns, if you can get that specific.
Right. It can be sliced in different ways.
My thanks to Jay Goltz, Liz Picarazzi, and Sarah Segal. And of course to our sponsor, The Great Game of Business, which helps businesses use an open book management system to build healthier companies. You can learn more at greatgame.com. Thank you, everyone. Wait, don't leave yet. If you have a question or a comment that you'd like the 21 Hats owners to address, send it to me by replying to your morning report or by email at lauren@21hats.com. That's LOREN@21hats.com. Do it now before you forget. And don't be afraid to tell Jay what you really think. He can take it. And if you got something out of this conversation, help us reach more business owners. Tell a friend. Subscribe and review us wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Twitter. Subscribe to The Morning Report at 21hats.com. This episode was produced by Jess Thuberon, founder of Blank Word Productions. Okay, now you can leave. Thanks for listening, everyone.